Now, when it comes to American history, there is a long list of distorted facts being taught on college campuses. Now, we expose the liberal lies and we set the record straight. Let's take a look. Everyone knows by now that American professors and universities are overwhelmingly liberal. Over the past 40 years, the bias has become more evident in college curriculums and lectures. And now their liberal slant is even showing up in school textbooks. While liberals strive to be, quote, more politically correct, traditional American history is being horribly distorted, portraying the United States as seriously flawed, dark, and even sinister. So are our students leaving the educational system with twisted beliefs about American foreign policy, race relations, religion, and war? Larry Schweikert is a professor of history at the University of Dayton and is the author of 48 Liberal Lies About American History and has serious concern about what kids are learning in school.
Most of these textbooks were written after the 1960s, when liberals flowed into college faculties, began writing their own textbooks, and they began to impose a view of the world in these textbooks that the United States was fundamentally evil, that the United States was fundamentally racist, that we were a classist society, anti-woman, and these views have now permeated the textbooks from top to bottom.
Schweikert has exposed this liberal bias by rediscovering facts about our history that were once widely known and challenges what is now being taught in so many left-leaning history books.
I got 15 to 20 college textbooks and started to examine what they were saying about these various topics. The most common image of the 20th century that I found in these college textbooks, other than FDR or the atomic bomb, was not the moon landing, was not John F. Kennedy, it was the Ku Klux Klan. Now that's pretty astounding stuff.
Now here are just a few examples of the liberal bias in our textbooks. FDR knew in advance about the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor.
This liberal lie began that FDR knew about Pearl Harbor in advance, allowed it to occur, sacrificed 2,000 Americans.
A date which will live in infamy.
It is utterly and totally absurd. We now have Japanese documents that show that there was total radio silence, that they had even turned off their transmitters. What a lot of the conspiracy people have actually looked at were decoy messages being sent out by homeland Japan islands, specifically for the purposes of fooling our cryptanalysts, our radio intercept people. And I'll tell you, the worst thing about this lie is that it impugns and indicts all of our cryptanalysts and radio people, our brave service people who fought during World War II trying to intercept these kinds of messages, because they would have had to have been in on the conspiracy from the get-go.
Harry Truman ordered the atomic bombing of Japan to intimidate the Soviets with atomic diplomacy.
Obviously, Harry Truman ordered the atomic bombing of Japan for the purpose of causing the Japanese to surrender.
To sign the instrument of surrender.
The liberal lie that began was that Truman did this in order to impress or intimidate the Soviets. We have the atomic bomb, you don't be afraid of us. It's nonsense. There is no evidence from the new Japanese archives that have been opened to suggest the Japanese were going to do anything at all except keep fighting. There was no indication by the Japanese government that they were in any way about to surrender before Truman ordered the dropping of the atomic bomb. Truman did the right thing.
Senator Joseph McCarthy concocted the, quote, Red Scare, and there was nothing to fear from communist subversives.
Liberal historians drum up the phrase McCarthyism to make it look like there was no threat to the United States by communists in the 1940s and 50s. In fact, the recent history was full of communist spy scandals. We had Alger Hiss, we had the Rosenbergs, who'd already been convicted of selling atomic secrets to the Soviets. Virtually every one of the people that the historians say McCarthy slandered turned out to be a communist. The KGB had almost every one of the people McCarthy named on their payroll or under their influence.
Mikhail Gorbachev, not Ronald Reagan, was responsible for ending the Cold War.
Mr. Gorbachev
open this gate.
Virtually all of the college textbooks point to Gorbachev as ending the Cold War. The emphasis is on Gorbachev and his reforms, not on the pressure Reagan exerted on Gorbachev to make these reforms. And it's a complete inversion of what actually happened.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
Reagan put total economic pressure on the Soviet Union to bring about the end of the Cold War. He refused to sell them critical computer technology. He built up our military, and it was only after these things were in place, especially SDI in 1983, that Gorbachev began to come to the table and began to negotiate an actual end to nuclear weapons. Reagan was the principal actor in ending the Cold War.
These are just a few of the lies commonly found in school textbooks that suggest the twisted view of the United States held by most of those who today write this history.
Finding bias in these textbooks is really easy. What students need is an honest and accurate portrayal of the past, including all the warts and all the blemishes and all the things that America's done wrong, but never forgetting all the things we've done right.